Some connections grow quietly. They do not begin with a dramatic moment, no instant certainty, no overwhelming declaration. Instead, someone slowly becomes part of your everyday life. Their messages appear in your day. Their voice becomes familiar. You begin recognizing the small patterns in how they speak, how they react, how they move through conversations. At first, it simply feels like closeness. You notice that you think about them more often. Your attention returns to the same person throughout the day, and slowly, the connection begins to feel important. When emotions grow deeper, it becomes natural to call that feeling love. But not every powerful emotional bond begins with love. Sometimes it begins with attachment. Attachment grows through repetition, through shared routines, through conversations that become familiar, through the quiet comfort of knowing someone will probably appear again tomorrow. You begin expecting their presence in your life, and when something becomes expected long enough, it begins to feel essential. This is how attachment quietly forms. It does not announce itself. It simply builds in the background while two people continue sharing time together. You learn their habits. You recognize their moods. You begin understanding how the relationship moves from one day to the next. Familiarity deepens the connection, and familiarity has a powerful effect on the mind. The more something becomes familiar, the more necessary it begins to feel. Soon, the connection is no longer just a relationship. It begins to feel like part of the structure of your life. Your thoughts return to them naturally. Your day feels different when they are present. Your sense of calm begins to depend on whether the connection feels stable. From the inside, this intensity can feel like love. Your emotions react quickly. Your attention remains focused on the same person. Your mind continues, returning to the relationship again and again. But intensity is not always love. Sometimes intensity is attachment protecting something that has become familiar. Attachment protects routines. It protects expectations. It protects the future you quietly began imagining. Without realizing it, you may begin building small stories about what this connection could become. You imagine conversations that have not happened yet. You imagine moments that might appear later. You imagine how the relationship could slowly grow into something stable. These imagined possibilities quietly strengthen the bond, not because they already exist, but because your mind begins living inside them. This is one of the ways attachment disguises itself as love. Love grows through mutual presence. Attachment can grow even when that presence becomes uncertain. You may begin adjusting yourself. You soften certain words. You hesitate before saying something that might create distance. You begin protecting the emotional balance of the connection. At first, it feels natural, like patience, like emotional maturity. But slowly, something begins to change. You notice how often you measure your reactions, how often you reconsider what you were about to say, how often you protect the relationship by making yourself smaller inside it. None of this appears suddenly. It develops quietly. From the outside, it may still look like commitment, like devotion, but internally, the experience begins to feel heavier. Because attachment often asks for quiet adjustments that slowly reshape who you are in the relationship. Your emotional balance begins responding to another person's signals. Their presence brings calm. Their distance brings uncertainty. You begin paying attention to small shifts, a change in tone, a message that arrives later than usual, a silence that feels slightly longer than before. Your mind begins observing, trying to understand what each change might mean. From the inside, this emotional intensity can feel like depth. But sometimes it is simply the nervous system protecting something that has become familiar. Attachment holds tightly to familiarity, even when the relationship itself becomes unstable. Even when something inside you begins to feel tired. Because losing the connection would not only mean losing the person, it would also mean losing the structure your mind built around them, the conversations you expected, the presence you counted on, the version of the future that slowly formed in your thoughts. When attachment becomes strong, letting go can feel frightening. Not because the relationship is necessarily healthy, but because it has become part of your emotional environment. Your mind has arranged itself around its existence. And when that structure begins to weaken, the reaction can feel intense. You may try to restore the connection. You may try to return the relationship to the way it once felt. But sometimes the intensity you feel is not love trying to survive. Sometimes it is attachment trying to protect what once felt familiar. And when attachment slowly loosens, something quiet appears. Not relief, not immediate clarity, but space. The constant observation begins to fade. The anticipation becomes softer. The emotional tension that once filled your thoughts slowly quiets. At first, this space can feel unfamiliar, because attachment keeps the mind leaning forward, waiting, observing, hoping that something will return to the way it once was. When that movement stops, the stillness can feel confusing. But inside that stillness, something subtle begins to happen. You begin seeing the connection more clearly. Not only the emotions that existed, but the patterns that surrounded them. You may notice where attachment shaped your reactions, where familiarity made the connection feel deeper than it truly was, where the fear of losing something known made the relationship feel larger than it actually was. This realization rarely arrives with drama. It does not appear through anger. It appears quietly, as a simple understanding. Sometimes what we believed was love was attachment protecting something familiar. And when attachment loosens its hold, what remains is not always emptiness. Sometimes what remains is clarity. The quiet recognition that love and attachment are not the same. And that understanding allows the past to settle differently, not as something lost, but as something finally seen.